intuition is, I think it's your gut instinct, first of all. But I also think it's really can be hard to be in touch with because stress gets in the way of a lot of things. And one of the things it gets in the way of is listening to our intuition. Stress usually brings about worry or doubt or judgment, fear, whatever it may be. And when those are magnified, intuition is like almost silenced. So we have to kind of do some clearing and get ourselves back in a place of letting go of judgments, accepting where we're at, not allowing fear to dominate. And then we can kind of be in touch with, what does our instinct tell us?
Welcome to another edition of Chasing the Timeless. And we're back again with popular demand with Poppy Potter. Make sure you check out our previous podcast with us. And before we even start, if you're regular watching these things, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment as we go along with things, because that really helps this podcast reach more people. So, how have you been since last time?
I'm good, Andrew. It's good to see you again.
Yeah?
So, yeah. I've been enjoying summer. And
what was your summer like?
well, summer here has been hotter than normal, but I'm about to head into a few weekends of some travel, but so it's been good. I've been, doing some running and biking and trying to get out and enjoy the nice weather that we have. So,
okay,
can't complain.
You asked me a couple minutes what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know. And you just mentioned running and biking. And that is something I've been trying to do this year is get out and run and get on the trails and do stuff. Like,
yeah.
What kind of running and biking do you do?
Well, I've been trying to get ready for the Twin Cities 10 miler, but I'm running into some injuries. So it's a little frustrating right now.
Yeah.
But I'm committed to trying to get myself back in better physical shape than I've been in before, better physical shape than I'm in right now. And so, and I was a runner in high school and a little bit in college and, had to be in pretty good physical condition back in my younger days when I was taking young people out into the wilderness. So it's something I miss. And so mostly I've just been trying to build up miles, but shin splints and now a knee issue. So I've been swimming and biking a little bit more because they're a little bit more gentle on my body.
Yeah. I took up mountain biking because of a knee injury. Running was difficult. But a couple years ago, I did a race out in San Francisco, and I haven't run really since then until this spring. And trying to just get back up to a pace that I feel comfortable with before I start extending the miles out. And my wife has been coming out. She hasn't been running, but she's been hiking the trails out there. And having the two of us push each other, hey, let's go out to the trails, makes a huge difference on how willing either one of us is to just do something when you have somebody that you're responsible.
Yeah, I think there's a real social component to health and wellness for sure. I know it helps me. I'm in a little group that meets on Mondays to kind of do a check-in to see how we're doing towards our goals and just connect with one another about what we're experiencing as we all work towards something. So
yeah. Last time we talked about logic, emotions, and intuition.
Yeah.
And since that episode, that has been so insightful to a lot of people. And I've been starting to think about the intuition part a little bit more. I went to law school studied public administration and economics, so I really trained my mind on the logical stuff. And I feel like I have, sensing and feeling and intuition, but I haven't delved into that as much. So I was wondering if you could help us talk a little bit about how to find that intuition and where it comes from. Like, how does it surface?
Yeah, that's a great question and good start. I think maybe I'll start by sharing that intuition I think it's your gut instinct, first of all. But I also think it's really can be hard to be in touch with because, as we talked in our last episode too, stress gets in the way of a lot of things. And one of the things it gets in the way of is listening to our intuition, because stress usually brings about worry or doubt or some types of unhelpful thoughts, judgment, fear, whatever it may be. And those things are like, actually, when those are magnified, intuition is like almost silenced, or it's really quiet. So we have to kind of do some clearing and get ourselves back in a place of letting go of judgments, accepting where we're at, like not allowing fear to dominate. And then we can kind of be in touch with, what does our instinct tell us? It's like those moments when you're not even doing a lot of thinking, but something just comes to you, or those moments when you're, I don't know, maybe you're out socially and you're just really experiencing the enjoyment of the people that you're with and the setting that you're in, and other things aren't coming into your mind, but you're just really being able to be present and those conversations flow. And I think that has a lot to do with your intuition and just like you you said today, I don't know what we're going to talk about, and here we are talking about intuition. So I think there's just also kind of a willingness that has to be present for you to even just be open to what comes to mind and what comes to your heart, and go with the flow, so to speak.
So is your intuition always working, but it's like blocked by the stress or the minds? Or is it something that we can amplify? I mean, what's your gut instinct say about?
I think it's all of the above, honestly. I do think it's hard to hear our intuition when we're experiencing stress or challenge. And also, I think there are moments of challenge and stress where it's just like you just go with what feels right. And I think that's intuition. I also think we can practice listening to intuition to strengthen it. So like, I don't know, maybe you're driving home and you have a thought of something and you're like, oh, I want to remember that. And something else happens in your day where you're like, oh, that's what that was about. I'm supposed to, and so I think, or you have an instinct to call somebody, and you call them, and as soon as you start talking with them, you understand why you were supposed to give them a call, or you're like, I don't know why I'm supposed to go over here and do this, but something's telling me I should. And once you do it, you find out, and it's like, huh. So I think sometimes we also blow our intuition off and are like, well, whatever, I don't know what that's about. And you just go on with your day. But I think if we can kind of mark those moments of, I don't know, I wasn't sure why I did that, but now that I'm reflecting on it, I get it. And so next time I get another little instinct like that, I'm going to pay attention and take note of where it leads me.
I was watching another podcast on Ezra Klein, and I can't remember the name of the person he's interviewing, but they're talking about consciousness. And there's our thoughts that are right in front of us that we're kind of guiding, really strongly affected by our emotions as well. But then they're exploring, like, there's so much of our perception. Our mind can only focus on so much of what all of our senses are bringing in. Like, our eyes, our ears, our skin, everything's picking up a lot more than what we're aware of. And it's almost like that's the subconscious, and there's a part of us that's feeding thoughts to us to act on right away. But there's a whole nother set of, almost like a network of neurons and stuff that is in our skin, and especially in our gut, that there's actually like some intelligence there as well that's feeding stuff in. And when I heard that, I was thinking about, well, so Ezra Klein was talking about that when he heard his guest say something really interesting that he wanted to circle back to, he just kind of felt this tingling in his fingers, and he didn't know what it was. Like, the feeling came first, then his rational mind thought, what's this about? And then it's like, oh, that's something wanting me to do something that I wasn't aware I wanted to do. And I realized I don't pay that much attention to what my body's feeling when I have thoughts. How does that fit in?
Yeah, well, I think you used a key word in that, awareness. And so that person was aware that that sensation likely meant something, or they were at least aware it was happening. And then something else happened, right? So I think being aware is, it's a signal to us, right? And you're right, like, all of us have different skills and abilities and things that we're tuned into or things that we're not tuned into. And so even just you naming that, you're like, I'm not sure I'm that in tune with what my body's always telling me, or not, at least not in X, Y, and Z situations. But I can bet that you know what nervousness feels like in your body. What does it feel like?
Yeah, right. Like, okay, so I feel nervous, but then when you ask me, what does it actually feel like? That's something that I'm not that in tune with. And I'm writing a book right now, and one of the person that's coaching me through it is saying, talk more about like what your body's feeling, because people can relate to that rather than just explaining what you're seeing. I was like, I don't know if I have the language to articulate what nervous. I suppose it's you feeling hot. Your temperature goes up.
Usually people will say their heart rate is, they'll notice the heart rate is beating faster, or they can actually sense it beating in their chest. Their palms might get sweaty, or they might even just start fidgeting, so.
And some people can even see you being nervous before you can really articulate that you just know you don't want to be there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think back to, I think in coaching, we'll often encourage people to think back to these moments where what we're talking about may have happened or may have occurred earlier in their life. And they usually come up with some pretty quintessential moments that, like, it just comes back to them, like this vision or this memory comes right back to them. And they can usually identify what they were, what at least some part of their body was feeling, and also the thought or the worry or the whatever that that they had in that moment.
And what is going back and identifying that? How's that useful? How do you use that?
We use it in ways to help people understand how the lesson that they learned from that experience may inform what they're experiencing or what they're thinking about right now. And so usually it takes something of us to move forward from whatever we're experiencing, right? And so I'll typically ask people, like, what about you in that moment allowed you to experience success or learn that lesson or whatever it may be? And because I think they can call on that same particular skill or value or whatever it may be in the moment that they're thinking about right now.
That's so fascinating, because I thought you were going to go into what are the negative things that have happened in the past that unknowingly creates the same reaction in us now, and being able to go back and look at that and saying, oh, that's unreliable association. I was younger, I didn't have a context, things are different now, so I don't have to have that same reaction. But you're taking a step further and looking at even like the positive successes you've had. And I'm thinking sports is a big area of that. You know, the people that are trying to be at the top of their game. But that applies everywhere in our life on how we, whatever we want to be successful at.
Yeah. I mean, like, someone might want to figure out a way to have a conversation with the supervisor about, like, how do I earn more money? You know, I want a salary increase.
Yeah.
Well, when else have you moved through an uncomfortable conversation? And what was it about you in that moment that allowed you to do that? Or even leading up to that moment, right? Mm-hmm. Because oftentimes when we're contemplating something, we're thinking about what might go wrong, or can we really do this? And when we connect our process to a time when we've had success or we've pulled on qualities that make us unique, we can move through it pretty. It's like, oh yeah, I can just do that.
Okay.
Like there's a shift in perspective. And I think that's what intuition can do for us too, right? It's like it helps broaden our perspective so that we're not kind of stuck in this one thought, one train, one way kind of view of whatever it is we might be experiencing.
So what if people don't have experiences that they can, positive experiences that they can role model? Like, that's a different path of how you're going to talk with that person or or work with them.
Yeah. I mean, I think every situation is unique. And so what I find is when you give people the space through silence, that they often come up with something
I feel like,
because
go ahead.
they're opening the channel for intuition in that moment.
Yeah. I feel like all the greatest, I don't want to say even greatest, all the whole scope of human capacity to do whatever is available to all of us. Like it's an inherent part of being human. And some people may have to go through difficult situations to expand your comfort zone and to recognize that. Other people just are like, yeah, I have no idea, but let's just do that.
Yeah.
And so maybe just a matter of trust or learning how to tap into different capabilities that we inherently have. And being, I think a lot of times when somebody doesn't want to go in and talk to the boss about a raise or do something uncomfortable, they may not even be able to articulate why it is that they don't want to do this. It's just like their emotions come up and then their thinking stops. And then that blocks, as you're saying, blocks their intuition and they're just stuck. But just quieting everything kind of exposes our truest self, which is able to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't always think this way, but one of the things that I learned through my coach training was to view emotions as information instead of these things that just go rampant on their own, right? But to say, well, what am I feeling and why am I feeling it? What is it connected to? And do I want to feel that way? Because then you can start to kind of move into a place of more objectivity, less fear, less judgment. And I think those are two of the things that really can get in our way of like turning up the volume on that more gut instinct of what's right for us.
Last time you talked with us, you mentioned about asking, like, what is this telling me? What is this telling me? What is this telling me? And so there's knowledge you can glean. You can also purposefully look and see if you can sense some intuition and recognize your emotions that you may not even recognize. But just the process of asking, just the fact that you're asking puts a brake on your spiraling.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. And I think for us to trust ourselves and to trust that we can move through the different experiences that we're having, challenges, whatever, we need to have some level of control, right? I think when we don't really kind of check ourselves on, and I can say this from experience, when we don't check ourselves emotionally and just kind of let the emotions run rampant, being reactive or temperamental or defensive or whatever it may be, it can feel like we're kind of a victim of the situation, or we're not in control of, or we don't have a lot of power in the situation. And so I think, for me, one of the first steps is just stop and breathe. Like get back in tune with myself and then be like, oh, why is this frustrating me? So
And so it's, in a way, type of meditative process, not necessarily one where you're just get rid of all thoughts, but just slowing down and looking inward a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what that does is it brings us back to center. And I think about intuition too as like our internal knowing. Like we know when things feel right for us and when they don't feel right for us. Or at least I think we do. I'll say I'm grateful for the times that I've known, right? And sometimes there are things that we can't predict. Like we talked a lot about Outward Bound last time that you were here. And I never would have predicted I would have ever worked for Outward Bound. But I followed what felt right on my path and on my journey. And that's where it led me. So I think when we are energized by things, when something just feels right, when, when we feel like we have a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment in what we're doing, like to me, those are all signals, signs, symptoms of the fact that we are likely paying attention to that intuition, that internal knowing.
I think it's a really healthy mental state to be into. You're less susceptible to getting controlled and stressed by things, and life is just more content and satisfying. And it reminds me of I've talked about this on the show as well, Ramana Maharishi. His only teaching really is to ask, who am I? And all of this is a part of that process of like realizing you're bigger than just what you were thinking a few minutes ago. There's all these different parts of you. And there's this intuition that you can't really articulate, but it just can resonate. Something resonates. And maybe it's part of your DNA, the way you're born and how you're supposed to be. You could look at it as being some outside spiritual force trying to reach you and guide you. There's lots of different interpretations, but the experience of it is something that is true.
Yeah.
And that we do experience.
Yeah.
And
can I share a metaphor?
Yeah, please.
When you talked earlier about the senses and neurons firing and all that kind of thing, the metaphor that came to my mind, because we're taking in a lot of information, and sometimes we're very aware of it, sometimes it's subconscious, but I was thinking about, I'm looking out my windows at the trees and all the research that has been done about the roots of trees and how trees communicate with each other for support, for hydration, for growth, even to know like when to drop the acorns, right? If you're talking about an oak tree. And so I just think of like, there's so many interconnected systems. And when we are listening and to our intuition, and we're in that place of fulfillment and satisfaction, and that, what you just talked about, that who am I place, our hormones work in a way that actually they're working to optimize everything for us. I think not just in our body, but a mind, body, spirit kind of thing. And when we're experiencing stress, our hormones are saying, break down those cells and tissue to give you energy to move through something. And so, stress breaks things down to give you energy to move forward. But when we're in that place of satisfaction and fulfillment and happiness, all those kind of more positive things or experiences, our hormones are actually saying, yeah, I like this. Let's keep this flow going, right? And it allows us to kind of maximize and optimize our systems internally. So, it's kind of like when you put new lubricant on your bike chain or something, right? It's like, oh, this is a lot easier.
Right.
And I think that happens too when we listen to those instincts that we have, and sometimes emotions and reactions to things might be trying to just gum up the chain. So that's why I think it's important to kind of ask ourselves, well, what is this telling me?
Yeah.
Because then we can really feel like, oh, well, yeah, no, these pedals are moving pretty good right now. So I'm going to keep going with that energy.
There's sometimes we'll find ourselves in a difficult situation. It could be work, family, life, where it's like, okay, I just got to grind through this period because the only way forward is for me to be in this situation that doesn't feel good. And at some point, maybe it's like, oh, it's okay. I can keep grinding away at this. But then there's maybe something telling us like maybe start planning for an off-ramp, looking for alternatives. Maybe you keep doing what you're doing, but you look for other ways to provide fulfillment or that balance. And that's kind of where that finding the way to that, I think it's important for us to be reflected, for ourselves to be ourselves and to say there's something unique about me that's being valued and recognized. And that's a major point of that discontent is when you feel like you're just a thing and not something special.
Yeah, I think you're really right about that, Andrew. Sometimes when I find that people that I'm supporting or in a coaching partnership with, when I find that they're a little bit kind of stuck in maybe a little bit of a thought process that's not helping them, I'll actually ask them to reach out to a couple people who are close to them and ask those people a couple of questions. One is, what has kind of the impact of my presence or our relationship been in your life? So that's one question. And then the second question is, what qualities do you think I have that make me unique that you really appreciate? And the feedback that I hear from people when they have those conversations, and those are vulnerable conversations, and there's no doubt about it, because we're not really set up to do that. We don't want to impose on people for something like that, right? But the feedback and the reflection that comes back after those conversations have been held is just so beautiful. And they realize that maybe, and I'm not trying to diminish anything that people experience, but sometimes we sweat the small stuff and our own thoughts get in the way and we forget that we have these other parts of us that are beautiful, that people appreciate, that, make people laugh, that whatever it is, but they usually come back with some type of more kind of universal truth about themselves that taps into kind of what they do know to be true about themselves.
Yeah, and then they're having an impact
Yeah.
on the people that are really important to them.
Yeah. 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 And they get to offer the same in return, right?
Yeah.
And so, you have a beautiful conversation and you are reminded of the value that you bring. And it can move us away from the judgment that we can hold ourselves in sometimes when we're feeling like we're not being as successful or whatever as we want to be.
Yeah, there's lots of ways our lives can provide richness and meaning. And often those ways are some of the first things we drop by the wayside when we're busy or under stress. And your friends say, you haven't been around as much. It's like, well, I've been working long hours or this. And
yeah, I think we're human beings, right? And most of us are driven by wanting to contribute something better to the world. And oftentimes we'll do that through our work, and we find a lot of meaning and value in our work. And so we can start making decisions that kind of sacrifice those relationships or time with other people or even other things that we enjoy doing for fun and adventure or whatever it may be, but it can start to feel like we're sacrificing things.
yeah, I think one of the biggest myths in society is that the way to contribute to the world is through doing these grand things that you can measure success by. I've ran this company, or I did this, and look at all these stuff I'm doing. When I really believe that the best way we can have the biggest impact on the world is to work on ourselves first and be a space that just spreads that warmth to other people to also say, I've been missing that too. And be that, be able to radiate something back, the energy that you're getting from other people, and be able to be that vessel. And you don't even have to know what you're doing, but just knowing yourself and working on yourself inherently. You don't have to plan out, this is how I'm going to help these people. You can't help it. It just, you have that impact on people the more time you've spent.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think it's also, excuse me, I think it can be a privilege to have the opportunity to be that reflective, that intentional, because there's a lot of things that go on in people's lives. Your kids are sick, or your parents are sick, or boy, there's our money from our organization was just cut, or there are a lot of external pulls and pushes and tension and that takes us away from sometimes feeling like we can choose, but that we need to do something or we have to do something. And I think when we can find ways to look at our situations and still insert some level of choice, we still maintain some of that control that we talked about earlier, right? But when we are in a place of like, I have to, or I need to, or even like, I won't do that, but yet you still have to. how many times when was I told that as a kid? But 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 if you can still insert some level of choice around how you're going to do something or when you're going to do something, or you still maintain some level of empowerment and some ability to be reflective, in terms of how you want to proceed with something.
Yeah.
But when you feel like that choice is being taken away or you've given it away, it can be a hard place to be.
Yeah, I think the most angry I get is when that's taken away, like this autonomy. Like, I feel like if I had a spirit animal, it's a wolf.
Mm.
It just seems to me so independent. They're out, they're elusive, they just run for miles and miles. They don't have, well, they do have boundaries now in our world, but that's not, it's, I suppose the pack is kind of where packs overlap, is where you get your boundaries. But
yeah,
just being able to run.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why it's important to be able to ground ourselves in whatever practices or whatever we need to do to ground ourselves in us each day. I think are really important, because when the rhythm of the world is moving pretty fast, and it's easy to get swept up in kind of what has to get done today, and this person's schedule and that person's schedule and that deadline, and I got to get this grant in or whatever it is, right? And forget to just pause and say, no, I'm going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to eat my breakfast today, and I'm going to write 3 intentions for my day, or even 1 intention for the day, so I just know how I want to enter my space and my time today.
Yeah, I had a podcast with Deborah Blackwell, and she's an artist, and she talks about just taking just a few minutes just to draw, and nothing intentional, but just seeing where her hand moves, and it just shifts her mindset, and having some kind of practice that, oh my gosh, I think our phones are an addiction to the entire population of the world. And setting those down and doing something like what you said, gardening or whatever, just to break that for a moment, because I can go through an entire several days and not have a stillness. Everything I'm doing is just reacting or observing or watching, but not just turning everything off and just feeling. Even when I go to bed, it might be up too late to lay in bed and sit and relax. It's just like put my head on the pillow and and I'm out, and I wake up and it's like, okay, what do I have to do today?
Yeah. One of the, I don't know, it must have been a podcast or something I was listening to, but I think it was actually around time management. But it spoke to me in a way that was much more profound. And what this person suggested was, when you wake up in the morning, think about the one thing that you want to either get done or experience, but one thing. If one thing can come off your list, or you can accomplish that one thing, what's going to be the most meaningful? And you're starting your day with choice in that way, right? Like, you're saying, no, I got this. Like, this is important to me. And so when we put our energy into intention like that, the likelihood of accomplishing it is skyrocketed, right? And so it might even be like, I'm going to take, a 2-minute walk at whatever time it is, just so I can pause from everything I'm doing. It doesn't have to be a big thing,
Yeah.
right?
Now, are you saying like, what's one thing on my work to-do list, or one thing that I probably would skip, or I might easily
I think it's,
like me time?
yeah, no, I think that's a good question. I think it's probably different for people every day. Because sometimes those work things do, they got to get done, right? And otherwise they kind of eat away at you. But to be able to name, like, okay, I know, like, I probably have 10 meetings on my calendar today, but this one thing, it's going to get done. Like, so that you have some ownership and some autonomy. But also, I think there are, like, it has to be balanced with, well, I'm going to go and stand by the water for 2 minutes and just look for the loons, right?
Just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can schedule. It's okay to schedule in 2 minutes of, I'm going to go walk to the lake. I'm going to go outside and sit under this tree for
Yeah.
2 minutes.
That's right.
And like you certainly can scrape that
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
but you have to be intentional about it, or
Yeah.
else it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, that's right. One of the things that they talk about as a key to happiness is willpower. And it's in relationship to doing things that we say are important to us, or goals that we want to accomplish, like running the 10-miler. That there takes some willpower and determination to, do I like to get up in the morning and exercise? No, but once I'm in it and once I've done it, I love it, right? But the moment in getting there is hard. But being able to push through that hard and just have determination that I'm going to do it, and be committed to it, and use the willpower to get through it. At the end of the day, I'm going to reflect back that I'm really happy that I did that.
Yeah.
That I stuck to something that I said was important to me.
Yeah. I think if I look back, well, what I imagine life being like 50, 100 years ago, or back through our whole evolution, there's a lot of exercise in our life just to get our food, just to survive. And there's a lot of communal interaction. There's the time together eating. There's going to bed at a reasonable hour because that's when the sun goes down. And the things that we're missing in our life, obviously we could choose to live that life, but we can also maintain much of what we have in our own lives, but try to find the things that we're missing are things I think that are important part of how we evolved as people, and especially standing up.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, life is changing at a pretty quick pace, right?
Yeah.
Which to me says that we need to even kind of be more aware, be more tuned into our intuition, be thoughtful about how we're showing up to things, because there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of distractions. And whether we do or don't do something, it's still our choice. And just depends on, like, whether you do or don't do it, you're going to be more satisfied or less satisfied. Like, I might not do something that I set myself up to do because I decided to go and help this person with this other thing instead, so we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to, like, follow through 100% on everything that we say we're going to do. Sometimes things happen and we make different decisions, right? But when we start feeling like we're always just responding or reacting, and like we've we're always sacrificing, can start to feel draining. And so by enacting choice and being intentional and being thoughtful about how we want to, put our actions forward in the day, even if it's just a 2-minute go stand by the lake, that's empowering, and it gives us, it inserts personal choice.
A couple of things that you mentioned there is the when we go through our day and don't get done what we want to get done because we've spent a lot of time just flipping through our phone or following rabbit holes on the internet. I think our first instinct may be to be upset at yourself, like, damn it, I wasted this time and I didn't get done something that I wanted to get done. I'm talking about myself here. But I think it's really important to give ourselves grace because we're dealing with something that is designed to be addictive. Mm-hmm. And billions of dollars are being spent to create that impulsive reaction to it. So it's not your fault, but as soon as you can start identifying that this isn't just something that's fun and enjoyable, but it's something that's manipulating me in order to profit somebody else, that gives us a little bit more space to maybe say, okay, I'm going to be more aware of this type of intention.
And then I think with that awareness, you have an opportunity to say, so if given this situation again, how do I want to show up to it? Mm-hmm. I can respond differently.
Yeah. And every day isn't, if you fail and you do it again, dwelling on those past failures just makes it worse. It's just another option right there.
Yeah. Opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned like you couldn't imagine or plan that you'd be working at Outward Bound.
Yeah.
One thing I don't know about you is before Outward Bound, how has your thinking is so involved and deep and introspective and helpful and how did that develop and grow in you?
Good question. I'm the youngest of 4 children, so I think I've always been pretty observant. I've always been like pretty perceptive about what people are experiencing or like relationships, and how people are affecting one another. And my mom was amazing, truly. And yet she didn't have a lot of confidence in herself. But she built this amazing business. I mean, she was the first female Rotarian and then the first female Rotarian president in our town. Like, she did a lot of incredible things. And she helped a lot of people see the world. She was a travel agent, so she helped take people, over to Europe and things like that, and gave people experiences that they wouldn't have had on their own, and in community. And so, but I think especially a young adult, and as I grew older, like I also witnessed how her own self-doubt, like she didn't believe what we all knew to be true about her, in a lot of ways. I think in a lot of ways she did too, but there was certainly plenty of times I can kind of remember having pretty special and in-depth conversations about like how incredible she was. And so I think that, through that experience and just, my own experiences in growing up, my grandparents were educators, and I think I've just always been really energized by when I get to witness someone else's aha moment. And so whether that's through conversation like we're having, or, experiences that we've helped create and design and implement, when you can help people create connections that help foster that belief in themselves, I just think is like that's kind of my way of creating meaning in my own life, and in the way in which I want to give back to the world. And so how I got here, I think as a young person, I had neighbors and friends that pushed me through challenges in a very supportive way. I was lucky I grew up with both my parents and all my grandparents in the same town, so I had a very supportive community. But I was encouraged to try things, and, I certainly failed, and I don't know if I would call them failures anymore, because I think they taught me a lot too. So, but yeah, I've always been a lifelong learner, and I've always felt like that's a really meaningful way to give back and to engage with people.
Yeah. I think a lot of people of your mom, my mom's generation, don't have that self-confidence just because of the role of families and men and women at that time, even though they did amazing, great things behind the scenes, especially supporting everybody else except for themselves. And having that support of the family around, the community around, encouraging you to think and being observant naturally. When did you realize that this is something I can actually study and pursue a little bit more?
Yeah.
Beyond just, that's just how I live my life.
Yeah. My freshman year of college, someone encouraged me to go to like the summer camp fair, job fair thing. And I had never been to a summer camp in my life. Didn't know anything about it. But when I worked at a Girl Scout camp, and when I felt the energy from the young people, and also realized the pressure that adults can put on kids. I had this young woman who, in Girl Scouts, you do feet on bunk time, FOB time after lunch. Feet on bunk.
Okay.
Like your bunk bed. And she was, we go around and check all the kids during that time, make sure they're doing okay and whatever. And she was upset, and I just asked her what was wrong, and went into this conversation about how, her mom and dad wanted her to write a letter every day. And I don't know if they actually said that, or if that was pressure she was putting on herself. But I think, that was a moment where I just really realized, wow, there is just so, and that was, whatever, if I'm old, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. And so, I mean, imagine what that's like now for young people. But I think so at that moment I felt like, wow, there's something really to this. Like, young people really do need different kinds of adults or mentors in their lives that can help them kind of walk along their path with them. And so, I had some really poignant moments, and it was also just really fun. I had a lot of fun. It was one of those times when I was just like, I was following the energy that I felt. And so when I came back to college after that summer, I was like, I think I'm going to major in recreational leadership. I didn't even know it was a thing, but and then through other connections, I found my way into Outward Bound and experiential education, and felt like, boy, learning and getting to do this fun stuff in the outdoors, just felt like it was marrying two really cool worlds of things I cared a lot about. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, I did really trust things that came my way. And I understand how lucky I was and privileged, honestly, that things came my way in the way that they did. Because I've had some pretty neat opportunities and have met amazing people and continue to get to help people, figure things out on their path and get back to that place of center and believing about themselves again.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff in our culture, and if I look at my regrets being a parent, is the places where I've put on pressure. Because I thought, I know that if you practice this hard enough, you'll be good at this and you'll enjoy that, without really knowing what my kids wanted or whether they're doing it because they thought I wanted it. But if you want to help your kids be successful, content, happy in life, step back, take that pressure off. The easiest way to make sure they're gonna be screwed up adults is to try to make them perfect kids.
Yeah. There's no such thing as perfection, right? Even though we're all perfect beings, but I don't have kids, so I can't speak to the parenting piece, but I can only imagine. Gosh, I mean, that's like your most important role in life, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, you want to do it well and do it right, quote unquote, and you want to share the lessons and the learnings that you've had, and so I think it's natural to want to kind of show your kids the way, but I think we also never know how they're interpreting that or experiencing that.
Is there a difference working with kids and working with adults?
I think when you're working with younger kids, there's some different developmental things, but I don't think there's I think we all have similar basic desires. Love, right?
Yeah.
Belonging. We want a sense of purpose. We want to make a difference in the world. Like, we all have inner critics, we all have inner champions that we can tap into. So I think in a lot of ways, more I work with adults through coaching now, the more I'm learning that we're all human beings.
Yeah.
And age may offer some things. It might also cloud some things. So I do think when we're younger, we're more willing to take risk. And that could be for a lot of different reasons. Some is just because we haven't experienced the bad side of risk.
Yeah.
But also we're learning, so we haven't collected as many experiences to have fear around.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit more ingrained or confident in your beliefs as an adult.
Yeah.
Whereas your kid, you're looking up to the person that's coaching you as somebody that's inspirational. You want to be like them, where adults may be like, well, you're suspect until you've proven yourself otherwise a little bit.
Yeah.
And you said you also do some work with organizations.
Yeah.
What's that? How does that marry with any of this?
Well, similarly, COVID and the civil unrest that happened after it and all those kinds of things were really hard. And so I phased out of nonprofit work in 2023 and started my own coaching practice. But the work I do with organizations is similar in that, and the reason I want to work with and through organizations is because I've just seen a lot of people start to exit education and youth development and these nonprofit sectors. And that's a worry. I think our young people deserve the best of us. And so I know there's a lot of organizations that are doing so well by their employees and they're taking care of them. But it's also, there is a lot of stress in organizations trying to move through the change that's happening and changes that are occurring and, scarcity of resources and, people are overcapacitated and under-resourced and all those things. And so, but I think if people are called into this work, and they feel a great deal of purpose in it, like we should be doing everything we can to support them. And so, if organizations want to support their emerging leaders or people, then I'll do some coaching with them and support their development. I think it's a great way to make a succession plan in your organization.
Yeah, I think, when I worked with Outward Bound, kind of the talking point of everybody, even the management, is like, you don't get paid very much. So I got to find other ways to make our staff feel important.
Yeah.
And ways that don't cost as much money, but it's really important. And how you do that kind of gets back to kind of what we're talking about. Like, what is it that people need to feel fulfilled? And doesn't matter what your organization is, if you can provide that to your staff, then they can see that, oh, now my job, even though I'm doing some stuff that's boring and difficult, I'm also getting some fulfillment in other ways through this when I go to work. It's not just a place I dread to go to work. It's like, oh, I'm going to get some enrichment in this as well, even while I'm toiling away at this on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's especially true I think everybody wants it, to be honest with you. But I think the younger generations that are coming into the workforce or younger in the workforce are kind of demanding that we support them more as human beings, not just working beings. And I think it's awesome because they're so creative and so they have a lot of wisdom, and we should want to hang on to that as long as possible in the organizations that we're working in. So.
Yeah, and so much energy and tap into that. And I think just looking at that as the future is just a great place for us to stop this time. And it also provides a whole other path for next time we get together.
That's great.
Okay.
Well, it's been good to be with you again, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode and you know somebody that might be inspired by it, share it with them. To To learn more about the show, go to chasingthetimeless.com.